Hey, good afternoon. This is Nikki Burnett. I'm the founder of Taste Life Nutrition, a functional nutrition practice, and I practice strategic evidence-based nutritional consulting. I thought today we talk about fasting. There's lots going around about fasting and intermittent fasting and what it is, and even fasting mimicking, and what does all of this mean? And so first I want to start out with a little bit of a background from where I come from with this. What I have always, or what I thought that I had been taught, what I think that I've been taught is fasting really is not a good thing, except what we all know is people have been doing, fasting plans and diets for years, probably from the beginning of time. It's talked about in the Bible. It's talked about everywhere. And so I started digging into it just a little bit to see if there's really something to it. What my training had taught me, or what I took away from it, was fasting can be hard on the body. It can create stress, which would increase cortisol. Over time, this is going to become catabolic, which means it's going to break down muscle tissue instead of getting rid of fat. And I think it can. So where I think the difference is if we have long-term calorie restriction, that creates a big problem. Long-term calorie restriction will do just that. It puts stress on the body. Cortisol goes up, stays up, and what happens is we end up losing weight, but we're losing muscle tissue and not fat. So think about what happens when we do yo-yo dieting, which is just so hard on the body anyway, but we do this, really super calorie restrictive diet, and then we go off of it because we're hungry, right? And then we eat, and we put the weight back on, and then we get mad at ourselves, and we go on a super calorie restrictive diet again, and we're starving to death, and we go and we eat. Well, what's happening is we're losing muscle tissue. At this point, so much stress is happening, so much cortisol is raised, we lose muscle tissue, but then when we gain the weight, we gain fat. Okay, so we haven't lost any fat, we put on more fat, and then we do the diet again, we lose more muscle tissue, and then put on more fat, and the body then just wants to hold on to this fat because it's in a stress mode and thinks you're starving to death. And so here's where fasting, intermittent fasting, and even fasting mimicking diets or programs are different. So what can happen, what we do, so there are a couple of different types of intermittent fasting. And so what some people will do is they'll do low calorie for a couple of days. So say for women 500 calories, for men 600 calories. They'll do that for a couple of days, and then the rest of the time the time that they eat, they are eating normally. You can also do a intermittent fasting where it's more based around the timing of the timing that you're eating during the day. And so this is what I do part of the time anyway, is I will eat from noon to 8 in the evening, and then my fasting period is from 8 in the evening until noon. I'm comfortable with that. Some studies will show women don't do as well with intermittent fasting like this, and men do better with it. I think that it's a matter of knowing your body and playing with it. I have clients that do it, both men and women, and I have clients that know that they can't, and it doesn't work. And that's okay, because there are always workarounds. There are always other things that we can do. Now, what's the data behind doing this? Oh, and I'll say too, you don't necessarily have to do the 16 hours. Some people will start with doing 8 hours a day, or 12 hours. I'm sorry, not 8, that's not enough. 12 hours a day, and then maybe move up into 16. And maybe you do it a couple of days a week, and then the rest you eat normally, especially as you're starting to adjust to it. So the science behind this is it helps to moderate weight a bit. It can help you to lose some weight. It can help you to lean up, and it doesn't create the stress on the body that a true long-term calorie restrictive diet would do. So now let's move into what's called a fasting mimicking program, and this is something that I use on myself, on my clients. regularly because it works so beautifully. I've kind of been amazed by it, to tell you the truth. It's pretty cool. So what fasting mimicking is, it's a protocol of specific foods at specific times of the day, and it is and certain foods on certain days. And so you don't want to mix these up, okay? And so what happens then is it is a super low calorie diet. So like on I think day 1 is about 1,100 calories, and then days 2 through 5, so this is a 5-day plan, 2 through 5, it's anywhere from probably 750 to 850 calories. So during this 5 days, the body, due to the types of foods and the combination of foods, the body is tricked into thinking that it's fasting. And so what happens is it starts to it creates what I don't know if I got this from somewhere or if I heard this during my training, but of a cellular dump, essentially. So what cells do over time and as we age is they tend to just hold on to toxic junk. And it's really hard to get them to dump that junk. And so that's what this fasting mimicking program will do, is for the period of time, the types of foods, the amount of foods, all of these things, and this is all researched quite extensively, but it creates that cellular dump. So what happens, this is really more than anything considered an anti-aging program, okay? But what else happens is if you have that extra visceral adiposity, so if you have the extra fat tissue that's sitting around the organs that we know is really, really unhealthy, it can help get rid of that. Now it's only 5 days, but it works, and you can do it multiple times. So what else can it do? If you have inflammatory markers like CRP that are elevated, your CRP will probably come down. If you have elevated blood glucose levels, those levels could come down. If you have elevated unhealthy cholesterols, or if you have elevated blood pressure, then those numbers could come down. And so I've seen some pretty cool changes by having my clients on this plan, as well as myself. And lots of people close to me, we've all been doing it. And so it's been really fun. Now, what you want to do is, with this plan, you do for 5 days, once a month, for 3 months is ideal, depending on your health status. So obviously, this is not something that you can just go out and do willy-nilly because of the specificity of it when it comes to the foods and the timing and that kind of thing, as well as it's considered, it's got medical foods, so it's considered, I can't say a medical plan, I'm not in medicine, but the company that I use to work with this plan are very specific about who I'm allowing to utilize this plan, because you want to be really, really careful with certain drugs that people might be on, certain pharmaceuticals, as well as certain health conditions. So we want to be really, really aware of that. But for those that I have had on it, it's 3 months of 5 days. Sorry, I'm getting a text message. 5 days for 3 months is ideal. And then beyond that is a discussion that would be between you and me, or whoever is providing you with this program. So I think that's about it. It's an interesting program. Let me see if I've got some notes here up. I want to see if there's anything that I'm missing. So LDLs can come down. Keep in mind, not all LDLs are bad. So only some LDLs are bad. That'll be another talk at another time. But I think that that's basically it. If you have questions about this, it's a really super great program. Oh, one of the things that I get from my clients once they finish with it is how amazing they feel. I had one client actually tell me he was going through his days, and he's like, day 1, I wanted to hit Nikki, and day 2, I threw the kale cracker at the dog, and the dog threw it back at me, and day 3, I was really upset with Nikki. But then he went through this whole thing. It was really cute. And then at day 5, he's like, I want to hug Nikki. I feel 10 years younger. So it's so interesting what it can do, how it can make you feel. Now, let me tell you, as you go through the program, it's not difficult, but it's not the easiest thing in the world, because there is hunger involved. When you have such low calorie days, you will get hungry. So there are ways, I think, of kind of getting around that, and your ways of, making sure you've got your blood sugar balanced and so forth, to get through. And you definitely go to bed early, so you're not thinking about it. But it's a great plan. It's a cool plan. I love it. Everybody that I have done it with so far has absolutely fallen in love with it. So let me know if you have questions. Of course, as always, go to my website, post questions below. Let me know if there's anything that I can do, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.